I know sometimes people can feel stuck in their current situation and they're just not happy with anything going on in their lives. But what people sometimes fail to realize is that they have complete control over their life, their circumstances, and so much more. This does not eliminate the fact that we should also allow for Source to flow through us, but this means we just need to get into alignment to allow more of Source to flow through us, bringing us the opportunities and experiences we were meant to have in our lives. Taking control of your life can be very easy. It all starts with breaking things down into digestible steps. And so, this is exactly how just a few months ago I was able to turn my life around completely just by implementing the steps that I'm going to share with you in this video. So, the first thing that you want to do is take inventory of your current situation. This has a lot to do with awareness. Are you aware of your current state of being? You also want to ask yourself some questions like, why do I want to change my current situation? Or what do I want my new life to look like? Or what needs to change, including my habits? And you want to be really honest about all of these answers that you give because this is going to establish your why. And if your why is strong enough, then you have a really good, solid foundation to begin this journey of taking control of your life. And when I say taking control of your life, I don't mean trying to control every single situation that occurs or every experience that you have. What I mean is simply taking conscious changes and conscious steps towards the life that you envision, the life that you want, but also still allowing the universe to bring towards you whatever it may want you to have. Maybe you start your journey of implementing your steps, and then all of a sudden the universe brings you some sort of intervention or some sort of serendipitous moment that allows you to either propel forward or redirects you. So, although this video is about taking control of your life, you still want to allow space for these opportunities to present themselves. So, with that being said, you want to be completely honest with your current situation, and this includes your mindset and your beliefs around making certain changes in your life. Do you believe that you can change your life? Do you believe that you have what it takes to implement a new plan or a new habit or a new strategy in order to get the life that you want? And lastly, what's stopping you from making these changes? So, for step one, I recommend writing down on a piece of paper all it is that you want to change, and then I also want you to write down the why. Beside each of those things that you've identified, you want to identify some sort of limiting belief or some doubt that you might have associated with each one of those items. The reason for this practice is so that you become aware of what your limiting beliefs are, or you become aware of why you feel as though you can't make these changes. And then in the following steps, what you'll do is you'll take those limiting beliefs or you'll take those doubts that you have and turn them into concrete action items for you to begin implementing on a daily basis. So, step two of this process is to make a plan. In this part, you also want to come up with some sort of daily habits or daily reminders or daily things that you want to account for to help you achieve the bigger goals. What do I mean by this? I'll give you a personal example. For me, I was looking to increase my income so that I can begin investing in my businesses. And I knew in order to do so, I would have to make some daily changes to my daily routine. I knew that I had to set myself up in order to get into the mindset of being able to apply for jobs, for example. And so one of the things that I implemented was a daily spiritual practice that encompasses meditation, journaling, yoga, and just having a lot of time to clear my mind before I went and tackled these tasks that I knew I needed to get done, which were a part of my plan. That being said, some examples of things that you might want to change in your life could be financial, it could be spiritual, it could be your career, it could be fitness goals, or even relationship goals. But no matter what it is, you want to make a plan to achieve that goal. So you want to break these down into smaller steps. Let's use my example of my financial goals. I knew that I needed a certain amount of income in order to begin saving so that I can begin investing into my businesses. At the time, I was freelancing, so I was making a little bit of money here and there, but it wasn't enough to achieve this goal. So I wrote down all the ways that I could potentially achieve this goal. which was I could get a regular job. That would be easy because I've done it before. I could start a business and I could also create content. So this part is where I decided that I was going to combine a few of those options into achieving my goal. So now that I've identified 3 ways that I could potentially achieve my goal, I then began to write down the step-by-step process of what that looks like. So first, I knew I wanted to get a job to get a 6-figure salary. Then I'd use the money from the job to invest in my business, and then making the content about the journey, and then eventually turning the business and the content into a full-time job and income, because that ultimately is my goal, is to be able to continuously create and continuously share my story with you all. So that is making the plan. Now, going into step number 3, we have taking action. And with this, I mean that we need to take conscious action. And so, just by writing down your plan, this doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to come to fruition. Now, you have to take each of those individual steps and break it down even further into how exactly you're going to achieve that step. So, going back to my initial example, step 1 was for me to get a job. Taking that alone, I needed to reverse engineer it and write down the smaller steps that I would take for me to achieve that. And that looks like updating my resume first and foremost, applying to 20 jobs per day, and then accepting about 2 interviews per week, because I knew with those numbers that eventually I will achieve my goal. The next part of taking action, it's about visualizing you achieving each of these smaller steps. In my example, I actually saw myself applying to these jobs. I actually saw myself accepting interviews, and I actually saw myself accepting offers when all of this was said and done. And by me visualizing this when I was writing down my plan, I was not only able to take the physical action by actually applying, but I also saw myself completing all of these steps. But I know that it truly works. And so I encourage you, as a part of taking action, to visualize you actually completing each of these smaller steps. See yourself accepting or completing whatever those steps are, and truly feel it before you even begin to take the action in the physical world. A few things I want to know about this step is to remember that your environment plays a huge role in taking action and in taking control of your life. There have been scientific studies that show that cells, individual cells, will adapt to their environment no matter what, whether it's good or bad. And so humans, made up of billions and trillions of cells, are no exception to this rule. And so what I mean by this is, if you find yourself in a current environment, whether it be your housing or whether it be your work or whatever it may be, just know that if you want to take conscious action on something that you haven't fully been able to change previously, it may be that you need to change your environment. I don't mean that you have to get up and move today in order to take control of your life, but you can start with taking small steps, like maybe going to a cafe to complete your job applications, using me as an example. Or it may be that you just set time aside for yourself just to get these things done, because you have to prioritize yourself. You have to step away from whatever your environment is that may not be conducive to your growth. And so I want you to keep that in mind when you get to the step of taking action. If you feel as though you can't take action in your current environment, make some changes, even minor changes. Even if it's your internal environment where you feel overwhelmed, you want to start to change what that looks like. You want to start eating better, which goes back to daily habits. You may want to remove any sort of social media, which can help you think better and give you back more time and freedom. You may want to start implementing some sort of fitness routine that allows you to feel better throughout the day so that you can achieve these goals that you set out to. Because I know one thing is for sure, is that you will not be able to make a lot of these changes if you continue to do the same things that you were doing before. So please keep that in mind. And lastly, step number 4, bringing it all together. You need to have it made up in your mind that this is what you want to do, and nothing will deter you from that goal. That is the determination that you need to have in order to begin to see these changes in your life. It may look like you losing some friends, you may lose some people that you thought were going to be with you through thick and thin, but this is a part of the process, and you have to make it up in your mind that no matter what, you're going to achieve your goals. So I know in my example I used, it was just all about financial goals, but you can basically apply this to anything you want to achieve. And mind you, I did multiple things at once. But I do recommend, if this is your first time doing something like this, to maybe start small and maybe start with one goal and see how easy it is to achieve that, and then continue building upon it to then create the life that you want. If you want to read more about what I'm referring to in this video in terms of, changing your mindset, changing your environment, and being mindful of what you are consuming and what you're giving out into the world, I wrote a post called The Light Formula, and it basically breaks all of this down so that you can have additional resources in order to begin making these changes in your life. Something that I wrote a while ago, but honestly, I've been using it for myself for so long, and it works every single time. And so whenever I have something in mind that I want to implement or I want to change in my life, I begin using these steps, but I also remind myself of what it will take by reading The Light Formula. And so if you have any questions, or if you have any other ideas of how others can begin to take control of their lives, please feel free to comment those down below. And I look forward to sharing more videos like this with you all.